I love to reminisce about old-time powerlifters, bodybuilders, Olympic lifters that I feel were true masters of their sports. And recently, Chuck Braxton came to mind. And Chuck was a powerlifter, and he lived in Nashville, Tennessee, and he used to lift at the weight room of Vanderbilt University. Now, I used to lift in the SLP, Sunlight Power, which was owned by Dr. Darrell Latch in Tuscola, Illinois. And Darrell had gone to Vanderbilt, and Darrell knew Chuck Braxton. And I can remember talking to Darrell about Chuck many years ago in the late 80s, because there were some articles written in Powerlifting USA that weren't too kind to Chuck. And I always thought Chuck was a great guy because I had known him as a person that would promote competitions and teach disabled children how to lift via a wooden Olympic weightlifting set that he actually made himself. And I thought that was very novel, and it showed that he had a great heart and that he didn't let his stature in powerlifting go to his head. Chuck's powerlifting heyday was the late 70s and on into the 80s, and at that time he weighed 350 pounds. That was unusual for the time. It's not unusual now, but it certainly was for the late 70s and on into the 80s. And Chuck had a bench press of 500 pounds. His squat and his deadlift were pretty much even, around 750 pounds. So he had a respectable total. He eventually dieted down to 275 pounds. Chuck was doing feats of strength before we heard of the strongman competitions like we have today. Chuck actually had an 18-wheeler, and I'll show you a picture of this. I'll put this up on the screen here. An 18-wheeler drive across his stomach. And that landed him in the Guinness Book of World Records. And I probably shouldn't laugh about that. I just can't imagine anybody doing that. One time he also was hooked up to 4 airplanes that tried to take off in opposite directions, and he actually bested the planes. They weren't able to take off. That was another amazing feat of strength. What I remember about Chuck is his white hair and his white beard. He looked like Santa Claus. And he did play Santa Claus in Nashville, and he was actually Santa Claus all year round because he did help the disabled kids. Like I said, he had the wooden Olympic set for the disabled kids, and he helped underprivileged kids. So he kept himself busy helping these kids, and I understand it was in the thousands. I've often remarked that I'd like to die on the platform, doing what I love the most. And I know Chuck Braxton was quoted as having said the same thing. And that's exactly what happened to Chuck. And I don't know what year it was. I believe Chuck was 63 years old, and I know it was in California at the National Masters Powerlifting Championships. And Chuck was warming up, and he had a massive heart attack. And I've read that the paramedics tried to revive him with adrenaline, but they couldn't find a needle that would go through his massive chest. So Chuck got his wish and died doing what he loved the most. And he had a very great powerlifting career. He put up some amazing weight, and he helped a lot of people. He had a heart of gold. He had a heart for children. And I just wanted everybody out there on my YouTube channel to know who Chuck Braxton was.